America is the biggest market, right? Followed by Europe, then Asia. There are many key players, not necessarily Indian companies. Most of them are outside India. Those are the basically software, supply chain software, specific softwares they have. Even if you look into analytics, sorry, consultants, right? Accenture, IBM, TCS, Infosys, any kind of IT company you take, they will have a separate consulting arm for supply chain, right? So there will be people who will be working for kind of developing supply chain solutions or advising companies on supply chain. There is a company called AnyLogic. We are going to use their simulation software. Anyhow, so that discussion will happen after few sessions. So that link and all those details I'll share so that you can download, and once the basic things we have discussed, we'll start working on that. It is a easy software, no need to coding. So don't worry about that. You can drag and drop. Most of the softwares I teach will be in that kind of drag and drop. So no need to worry that you have to do certain coding. But we are looking into the simulation part. So it is not something kind of analytics. When I say analytics, as you know that there are different dimensions, right? Descriptive, then diagnostics, then predictive, then prescriptive, right? So here basically we'll be looking something called the prescriptive, right? Optimization part, transport optimization or network optimization. What are the, or don't worry, we'll discuss. So basically we'll be using a simulation software to carry out certain optimization. Some of you, if you have taken those analytics classes, right? You might be using Excel, integer optimization and all those things. We are not going to go by that way. So there are two ways to do actually optimization, right? Either you will create a model, so integer optimization, right? Non-integer optimization or integer optimization, or you will, like whatever the real scenario is, that you'll build a simulation model and run the simulation, and that will give you the result, right? So we are going by the other way. Rather than using mathematics, we are going to create model, simulation model, and we try to use that for kind of doing prescriptive analytics. So again, what do you mean by supply chain? So there are kind of flow. So why it is a chain? It is like there are entities or stakeholders, right? So there will be flow of certain parameters, right? It can be material, right? It can be money, it can be information, right? So these are the materials or entities, not materials, obviously, parameters or entities being exchanged across different stakeholders, right? And that is what that is connecting those stakeholders in a chain, right? And that is why we are calling it as a supply chain. Then can anybody tell me what will be the difference between supply chain and logistics? So that is a standard question, and whenever you apply for any supply chain role, there might be a question related to what is the difference between supply chain and logistics. Anyone? Yeah, go on, Jimmy.
Sir, in logistics, it refers to the movement of material, that is the shipping part. So that is the main difference in logistics, sir. And in supply chain, that is the flow of material between a supplier and the company.
Flow up. I did not get you. Can you please repeat?
Sir, it is a network between the producer and the company for the supply of the products.
Producer in the company. Company means you mean to say customer.
No, it can be B2B, sir.
Okay.
In case of procuring raw material.
Yes, customers can be both, right? It cannot be humans, right? It can be companies also. Yes. Who else? Jatin.
Sir, in supply chain, it deals with both information and service from manufacturing unit to final customer, and there may be inventory in between them. But in logistics, they only deal with materials, not service and other information. So that's the main difference, I think.
So can you please repeat? Logistics, you said? It deals with?
Sir, in logistics general, they deal with material, means movement or shipment of material, not service and information. So in supply chain, we can consider both material, information and money. But in logistics, they only deal with material. and that's the main difference.
Okay. Any other answer or anyone want to take a try?
So logistics is a part of supply chain. In
Okay.
logistics, we are only considering the shipment of materials, but in supply chain, it's a broader concept. Here, along with logistics, we are giving priority to manufacturing, operations, and all these things.
Okay. Any other answer?
Sir, supply chain starts directly from the procurement of raw materials to the delivering the finished goods. We can say that is the supply chain, but logistic is just the delivery of the inventories or the raw material to the customer or maybe to the factory. So we can say logistic is a part of supply chain, but supply chain is the whole process, right from procurement of raw materials to delivering it to a factory and production part, and also the delivering of finished goods.
Okay, good. Anyone else want to add something else? Okay. Yes, the overall answer, what your classmates are telling is correct. So logistics is a subset or a part of supply chain. Obviously, 50 or 60 years back, everything was so there was when supply chain concept was not there at all, right? So there is something called productions, there was something called transportation, there was something called operations, right? And all of them were working in silos, right? Then organizations, as they got bigger, they realized that it cannot be such that okay, my there are different like I'm treating those departments inside my company as separate units, right? I have to integrate them. So the sourcing, or before sourcing, your planning itself, right? What kind of what is your forecasting for next year, right? Whether you will build a, and planning can be long term or short term also, right? Do I need to build more warehouses? Do I need to get more distributors or dealers? Do I need to hire third party sourcing companies, right? So that is a strategic planning which happens, right? Then next step will be on the sourcing part. Who will be my like kind of raw material vendor who is going to supply me material? Do I need to plan for the long term? Do I need to plan for supply chain risk, matlab supplier risk, right? So that is again the sourcing part. Then came the production part, right? In the production, how to optimize your production workforce, how to kind of carry out the production maintenance, predictive maintenance, right? How to plan for the in case there is a return, there is a failure in your product, how to carry out those kind of return reverse logistics, and again manufacture remanufacture them, right? So all those things will come under production. Then the next step is transportation or movement of goods. So from your from your production plant to the warehouses or distributors, how to optimize my routes, where exactly my warehouses should be. So that will be network optimization. How to optimize my routes, so that will be transport optimization, right? So once you cover that, then at the customer end, right? Though again, it can fall into the sales analytics, but if I am considering all the stakeholders as a part of supply chain, that also can. When I say SKU rationalization, that means let's say ITC or HUL or PNG, they are selling their products, right? At a particular Reliance retail or a particular, let's say your whatever big bazaar, right? How to optimize your SKUs? How many SKUs per particular SKUs? How many units should be stored in that store, right? So that itself again, obviously that can be decided by the retail people, sales people, or it can be a part of supply chain also, right? If I'm considering that also as a part of supply chain, right? So till that point of time, again, once I reach there, once I reach at my retailers or distributors, I have to get information how customers are liking my product. Based upon that forecast, if they are liking and there is a good demand of my product, that information will flow back to my plant, manufacturing plant. Okay, there is a demand of this product, so we have to plan for the next years because there is an increase in demand for this product. Then the plant, that information will flow back to my source like kind of sourcing companies or the raw material vendors that okay, if let's say Maruti, there is a higher demand, they forecast that next year there will be increase in demand of Maruti cars by 15%, right? So when you say 15%, one car increase means there are 5 tires, right? So if I'm using MRF or C8 tires, that information has to go to MRF or C8 or JK tire, whichever tires I'm using for my vehicle, because accordingly they will plan for their production, right? So all these need to be integrated, which was not there back 30 or 40 years back, right? Everything was in silos. Right now, due to implementation of ERP, due to implementation of your IT technology, everything has been integrated, and we started calling this all this involvement of all the stakeholders, where the movement of material is happening, movement of information is happening, movement of obviously the money is happening, right? As a supply chain, right? Because all these things are connected, right? Integrated. So obviously when I say the stakeholders, right, majorly again, not necessarily always will be these stakeholders. Sometimes one or two stakeholders, like I say, if this part is being taken care by the sales kind of management, right? So that won't be part of in for few companies, that customer order cycle will be taken care by the sales people, right? But if I'm giving overall overview of your supply chain, ideally that also should be. So that's why it is sales operation planning, right? So it is not that earlier what used to happen, sales also used to be in silos, right? Now everything is integrated. So whatever happens between supplier and manufacturer, right? So manufacturer will put a purchase order and supplier will send the raw material, right? So that is a procurement cycle, right? So it is here the procurement or the sourcing is happening, right? So this is what the first analytics which we'll study, sourcing analytics or procurement analytics, which is on the session 2. Then once I receive the material, once I have the components, once I have the resources, right? I have to optimize that. I have to optimize my production planning. I have to optimize my workforce planning, right? So that will be a production or make analytics or production analytics. That is something which we'll discuss on session 3. Once we cover that, now I'm going to send that to my like kind of distributors, dealers, right? How to like send, what kind of like sourcing strategy, not sourcing, basically transportation or movement or freight strategy I'm going to take, right? So that will be movement strategy, right? Transportation analytics. Then once I do that, at the end, it is either whatever, let's say if it is FMCG product, different modern retail outlets are there where my products are being sold. Or let's say it is automobile company or a laptop manufacturer. I'll have my dealers, distributors, e-commerce. In today's world, again, there is a online channel also, right? How to optimize what kind of material or what kind of item will be sold across which kind of channels, right? How to optimize my SKUs, how to rationalize my SKUs, right? So that will be sale analytics, right? So we'll not put much time because most of you might have taken marketing analytics. That itself is a separate kind of subject. Though we'll cover few concepts there, most of our kind of whatever we are going to start your model, right? So that will be on the procurement, then into the production, manufacturing analytics, then into the transportation analytics, right? So this is again a short term whatever we are studying, right? Overall, if I want to look into where should I put my warehouses, where should I put my plants, manufacturing plants, that will come under certain optimization part, right? Or which route I should take. Think about Apple. Right now, they have manufacturing sites across China, Thailand, and they are starting a manufacturing plant in Pune, India, right? How do they decide that, okay, exactly in this location I should put my plant, manufacturing plant? And these are the locations where I'll have my distribution centers or warehouses, right? So that is something known as the network design or network optimization. That is something which again we are going to cover, right? So like not every supply chain will have all 4 cycles. Obviously, like if let's say it is a e-commerce Amazon, right? For Amazon, that they are not mostly into manufacturing, right? So there won't be any production cycle. So they're sourcing product, sending it to warehouses, then from warehouses to customers, right? So depending upon the company, depending upon the organization, some part of the cycle might be missing. But traditionally, for a manufacturing company, all these things will be available. Okay, before I go ahead, any questions on these cycles?
Sir, nowadays there is a new concept is there like D2C. So due to D2C, we will be eradicating the replenishment cycle and the customer order cycle.
Correct.
It-
No, customer order cycle still will be there, right? So it is direct to customer, right? So from your manufacturing plant or from, you need not have to have a distributor or dealer. You will directly send to customer.
So it will be the manufacturing cycle and the customer order cycle will be in within the manufacturer and the customer.
Replacement, the in between which was used to go to retailer, right? Think about all the e-commerce companies, right? If let's say Ola decides that Ola scooters, they'll decide that okay, we won't have any retailers or distributors. Customer will go and directly order in their website, and Ola scooter will be distributed directly sent to the customer's home. So in that case, what they're removing, retailer they're removing. So this replacement cycle will be removed. But customer order cycle will be there, right? Customer is putting order in their website. So then your that whatever transportation to the customer's location is being made.
Yes, sir.
One thing again we have not put it here, which is of importance. So there is something called reverse logistics, right? Sometimes reverse logistics, there are many regions for reverse logistics, component failure. Many times you might have seen in the newspapers, right? Hyundai or Honda cars being recalled, right? So that is where your cars or the components or the products being recalled by the manufacturer. Or now also there is something called, because sustainability companies are talking about sustainability, right? So they are kind of recalling, let's say, laptop manufacturer. If you send back those, let's say, whatever mobile phones, right? So they'll take that mobile phone or take that laptop, try to, like again, in their production plant, there will be a separate kind of factory or separate location where they'll try to salvage whatever value items they can. Because see, we have resources. It is not that we have unlimited resources on earth, right? If something can be reused, right, from that laptop, old laptop or old mobile phone, right, manufacturers are trying to do that, right? So that is where when there is no problem in the product, right? So the customer used product for 4 or 5 years. Right now they're sending it back, and for that they may get a discount of 1,000 or 2,000 rupees, which is generally happening in your
Flipkart,
e-commerce. Yeah, Amazon or
Flipkart.
Flipkart, Amazon, Flipkart, right? So that is where the reverse logistics is of significant importance today, which is not shown here. But again, we'll try to cover that also, right? But again, the analytics part remains same, so there won't be any change in modeling. But that is something which is not shown here. So if you see almost all the kind of whatever we are talking about, analytics, big data, AI, whatever machine learning, right? It is not that models are new, right? Techniques are there from 1960s, right? All the backbone of all the analytics techniques are statistics or mathematics, which was there long before all these tools came. But what now prompted all this kind of whatever improvement has happened in our data visualizations or data analytics skill sets are basically, if you see, one of the key component is your technology change, and under that technology change is basically internet, right? See how your kind of price per performance, that means the speed of data transfer has decreased. Today it is almost going like less than kind of your computing power, like kind of per transistors the spend or the money you spent has come down close to zero. Storage capacity, so the amount of money you spend to store data, that also has come down significantly. Bandwidth, the like plans you have, right? Obviously, for organizations, it will be bigger plans. It is not that whatever we are using at our home, but that itself per gigabyte has decreased a lot, right? And that is where if you see a lot of companies are thinking about analytics, because if these things were costly, processing power, if to process a algorithm or process a analytics kind of tool, you do not have computing power, or you like earlier, if you remember, if you see a 90s 80s, for 5 kilobyte disk space, they used to have this big kind of storage space. That floppy drive used to be that big, right? Like used to be a big box. So obviously that is not there, right? We have kind of done lot of technological changes, which gives us the opportunity to kind of higher processing power, higher bandwidth, and higher storage capacity. So that is where we are talking about big data, right? We have a lot of opportunities to work on data, right? It is not that we have developed. Obviously, technicalities also have changed, but those techniques were used to be there, but we did not have the opportunity. Right now, due to all these technological changes, we have improvement in processing power. We have cloud services, Amazon, Microsoft Azure, right? Google Cloud. We can store a lot of data with less cost, right? That is where you see a lot of changes in business models which has happened. Think about Airbnb. Think about your Oyo rooms, right? Yes, yes, Jatin.
Sir, actually, in means earlier in 1992, though there are means requirement of space is more, but if you consider current scenario, then the requirement of means money or cash. So that is the more right now, because for every section or every cloud computing or any high technology machines, the price is also more for that service or any kind of requirement. So in that way, the cost of performance means high, and the cost used for that performance is also high. So sir, in this graph, but it is going down. So how this is possible?
Can you please repeat what exactly
So
you are
like,
trying to tell?
sir, actually, sir, you have told na ki the cost, investment cost is less nowadays from earlier days, means from 1992. But sir, at that time, the sophisticated of machines are very less, so the requirement of space is more. And according to this, the price of that machines or any service is less. But nowadays, though there are different price section for different service, and most of the service are high, they're charging high price and high cost. So in that way, the means price is more as comparison to the earliest stage or earlier years. In that way,
Price of what?
so price of service or any kind of means technology or machines. Like if you consider the earliest, the CPU price is 1,000 rupees, but nowadays, though the requirement is high, means high technologically sophisticated CPU, then its price is more. So sir, in this way, the investment is more as comparison to the earlier stage. So the graph should be upper, I think. But
Okay, so you are saying the price of CPU is more in comparison to 20 years, 30 years back.
yes, sir, for an example, means that CPU
But
can only
how did you get that data? So 1,000
so
rupees,
like
which you are telling 5,000 rupees, 90s,
yes, sir.
and
So like
20,000 or
at that
30.
time, sir, at that time we are storing any physically that CPU or any kind of hard disk or anything. But nowadays we are storing in clouds, and for that we have to pay monthly basis or earlier basis
How
price.
much you are paying?
So suppose it varies from company to company and operation to operation.
Take any
Like
company.
so like if you consider normal GPS technology, then they are charging 12,000 to 14,000 per year. But earlier they have invested only one machine. They have to buy only one machine and one time investment. So in that case, we have to pay 30,000 or 40,000. So and it is
Yes,
lifetime for 15
30,000,
to 20 years.
40,000 in 90s. So that is what I'm trying to tell. 30,000,
Okay,
40,000
the
in
price
90s.
variation.
Yeah. is not equivalent to 30,000, 40,000 in 2020 after 30 years down the line. So the kind of computer which I started working with had a total hard disk of 2 gigabyte.
Okay.
And that itself used to cost that time for the company, I think 15,000 or 20,000. Now you compare how much hard disk size you have. Still you are paying 30,000, 40,000 for a standard desktop or a laptop. But the amount of storage space, it is not 2 gigabyte, right? Your phone itself is right now, I think, minimum 32 or 64 gigabytes, right?
Yes, sir. But sir, the life expectancy is less for the newer devices. Earlier, there are means they are going up to 5 to 8 years. But now, if you consider any laptop or PC, it is hardly means it can go up to 4 to 5 years. Means its performance. So
Yeah, it
in that
is.
basis, yes.
So what you are asking, like, so then it is good or bad?
So like the yes sir, the graph should be upper na ki the requirement of price is more nowadays. In that sense.
So one thing is that price is not written. It is cost
It's
for
the cost per
performance.
performance, cost per
Mm,
performance.
mm, mm.
I think yes.
Correct, right? So if you are spending same like 1 gigabyte data you require in 90s, in today's money you could have spent 5 lakh rupees. Right now you are spending maybe 50 rupees. If in back in
Yes sir,
90s
in
you
that
could have,
sense.
in that sense, no, it is the only sense.
Okay sir.
So if you say that, okay, I have 5 lakh rupees in 90s and I have 5 lakh rupees in 2020 and both are same, it is a senseless logic,
Okay sir.
right? Same thing with your performance power also. So that time 90s or 95, in case I don't think any of you would have used Dexter. So for getting my back in 99, just to see my high school result, I have to go to a cyber cafe, pay whatever 20 rupees, 30 rupees, just to have the internet access for that 5 minutes or 2 minutes, just to see the result. Even I think in today, if you go to remote villages, that happens. But now, how much you are paying for your like kind of data usage per day? 24 hours, maybe the spend maybe 10 rupees, 20 rupees. And same thing if you just put it in a higher storage space, same thing applies for a company also, right? For the company, the same company, if you think about Tata Steel or whichever company, if they wanted to use a supply chain software back in 90s, techniques were there, but the amount of money they would have spent to use that kind of technique, use that kind of algorithm would have been pretty high because storage space was costly, processing power was costly, bandwidth was not there, collecting information itself was costly, which has decreased a lot in comparison to last 20 or 30 years. So I'm not looking about the price of a product. I'm looking about the cost of carrying out analysis 30 years or 20 years back and currently what is now. Right. And that is where because the cost has decreased, a lot of new business models has come. Think about Airbnb or OYO. If internet itself was not there, people are not able to use application. You not able to go to your book a rent a room at Airbnb or OYO. Same thing with your Uber, same thing with your Ola, same thing is with Amazon, same thing with your Flipkart. Here Zomato and all those things are mentioned, but again, the all those business models are working today because of reduction of cost, right? Jatin, keep on mute. There is a background noise. Yeah. So that is where I think all of you know about the four B's of kind of data, big data, right? Variability, visibility, volume, and velocity, right? So this is how your kind of not only supply chain industry evolution has happened. We started with kind of steam engines talking about the productivity and industrializations of like back in 90s, right? Close of or beginning of 20th century, right? Then electricity, talking about mass manufacturing, which the Ford assembly line is famous for. T models. So there was a newspaper guy went to Henry Ford and said, "Sir, why don't you like customers want cars in red and pink? Why don't you manufacture those cars?" So Henry Ford said, "Customer can want anything, but I'll always manufacture my Ford cars in black color, right?" Because that time they wanted to optimize the assembly line, right? Obviously, like the mindset was like if you go by the marketing mindset, right? I have a product to sell, I'll create that product and customers will buy it. I'm not going to ask customers what they want, right? Then once we have the internet, computers, right? We have the access to information. Then that's why I was talking about, right? The silo of working in sales, marketing, then production, then sourcing, that disappeared. All those things started getting linked. Otherwise, what used to happen back in 1970s? Sales order will come, paper printout that will be dispatched to the manufacturing plant. Manufacturing plant again put a tender paper, it will go to your vendors, right? So those things have been removed. You have a integrated ERP system. Any forecast which is coming from sales side or the your distributors dealers, every week or every month will get updated in the system. Same thing, plant manager every week or every month, if he takes a report for next 6 plus 9 forecast, 6 months plus 9 months, or depending upon 3 plus 9 months, they'll take a forecast and see that okay, what is the sales forecast for next 3 months and 9 months, right? And accordingly, that same thing will be visible across their sourcing partners or the vendors or suppliers, right? So that visibility has increased a lot, right? So that was for next 15 or 20 years. Now, if you see a lot of things, we're talking about the automated vehicles, drones, sensors, right? Uh, where exactly your products are going, where exactly your vehicles are traveling, right? Everything is because that data itself right now, transport speed is higher. Data storage capability we have so that we can store those data. Recently, that Suez Canal fiasco happened, right? If somebody can predict better routes, if I'm not taking, obviously we do not have many choices. If you block the Suez Canal, obviously the transportation cost is going to increase to move between other two kind of paths. One path is basically the closer to the Africa border, which is basically pirate. Lot of pirate problems happen there. So that is something which is always kind of nobody can kind of predict that whether there will be pirate attack or not, right? And that's why even though there is a kind of chance to move by that way, generally shippers or transporters do not go by that way, right? But the point is right now we have all the information and the increase of availability of information has happened. Now the challenge is how to use that information, right? We have techniques, we have tools and techniques. We have right now the infrastructure. We have computers, laptops, which can process those data. We have data storage capability. We have bandwidth of data where, let's say, truck is moving from, let's say, Chennai to Pune. At each 1 hour, at each half an hour, right? All the details about the product will be sent to the control tower or the supply chain tower, right? So I have the exact visibility every half an hour or 1 hour, right? Earlier, what used to happen? Somebody will call the driver asking about, "Arey, where exactly you are in?" The customer is asking, "When will you reach in their kind of path, like kind of warehouse?" Now I do not have to contact everybody on the telephone. I have the sensors put on the kind of trucks or the transport vehicles. Exactly where the trucks or transport vehicles are there, which route they should take, I can optimize it, right? So that is the benefit of all these technological innovations. Any questions on this? So again, we have discussed this kind of. I think all of you know what is the difference between inbound logistics and outbound logistics, right? Anyone? What is inbound logistics and what is outbound logistics?
Sir, inbound is
inbound.
Yeah, go on.
So inbound is something about the input of raw materials, and the outbound is something which we are doing supplying for the our final products.
Okay. So inbound is basically which is coming to your plant or manufacturing plant. Outbound is going to customers, right? If I talk about Amazon, right? Amazon do not have a manufacturing plant, but they source material, direct components or products to their warehouses. So for them, inbound logistics will be whichever vehicles, whichever transportation mechanism they're using to bring those products to their warehouses, right? Outbound will be sending to different customers, right? So that is always kind of there are different costs, different mechanisms associated with it. We'll discuss that later on. So basically, this is what we have already discussed, some few key stakeholders in supply chain, the sourcing of materials or components, then the manufacturing part, then shipping, receiving, which happens in warehouses, maybe part of manufacturing plant. In some cases, it will be near to your manufacturing plant. Then the distribution part. Then obviously the new thing which has happened in today's world on the reverse logistics, right? Either returns or repairs of components or product, right? So obviously again it is a repetition. Suppliers, your factory, manufacturing, then distributors, dealers, then you have your final customers. These are the main stakeholders in your supply chain. So what we are going to optimize or what we are going to analyze, what kind of product, right? Why it is necessary. So I think one or two of you have done in your internship in ITC, right? So think about if you are working in an ITC warehouse and you have to optimize which products should go in which kind of containers or transport vehicles, right? So how you decide? One thing you have to know that what kind of, there will be again some products which will be spoiled quickly, some products which you cannot put a load on that, right? Apart from that, what kind of size, what kind of boxes are there, right? So that your main target will be to whichever trucks, whichever vehicles are going out of your warehouses, that should be fully loaded, fully packed, right? And you do not have much time that okay, we'll plan just in time, right? You have to plan beforehand. If the loading is going to happen in the morning 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., you should have the Excel file which will should say that okay, this truck will take this kind of load to this kind of customers, right? And that is where you have to have aware about when I say product dimensions, the box dimension, the packets which is carrying. I'll share you a after today's class. I'll share you a video link. How do they do that in the Amazon warehouses, right? Because in Amazon warehouses, it is not only the single product. They have around lakhs or millions of SKUs, right? In case of ITC or HUL, it might be 5,000 or 10,000 SKUs. But if I'm go to Amazon warehouse, it will be in millions. Then facilities, operating cost, storage capacity, production and demand. Because accordingly, I have my inventory has to be managed. Inventory can be of different types. Some inventory are finished goods, some inventory are work in progress, some inventory are raw materials, right? Then vehicles. What kind of transportation vehicles I have to use? Bigger trucks or trailers or smaller Tata is smaller vehicles, right? Or shall I outsource it, rather than owning those vehicles, will it be beneficial if I outsource the logistics part? Then the which routes I should take, which path I should take, right? If I just leave it to the transporter will always go by the, because the more money they will get by taking a longer route. For me, I have to plan those routes. That is till the last mile delivery. Think about those in, I think, Odisha, the Milky Moo company is there. So how many shops they are providing their milk products also. If I want to design a supply chain for them, what kind of vehicles I should use, what kind of routes my vehicles should take to reach to those retailers or shops. That is something which need to be optimized, right? So primarily we'll be looking into this kind of analytics, descriptive, inventory trends, return on invested capital. Basically it will give a visualization, right? When I say descriptive, existing visualization of your supply chain, right? Here we try to create certain kind of supply chain dashboards. Then diagnostics, using that data, using the existing data. Is there any problem? Let's say if I get a, so here in the first part, visualization will come. It will say that, okay, inventory turnover, inventory time, delay in production or delay in reaching to customers, right? All the details, what I need to visualize, I can put it in a dashboard. If everything is green, it is good and working fine for me. If something is red or yellow, that means they are in danger. Let's say my inventory turnover should be around 8 or 10. For last year or last 6 months, it has been only 4 or 5. So why it is decreasing? So now I'll go and do a deep dive. Which exact location or which exact facility is falling behind? So that is where the diagnostics will happen, right? The exploratory part will come. Now I'm trying to find a problem, right? Is it a temporary problem or has it been happening for last 2 years or 3 years, which I did not see? The next part is predictive. Predictive is some part is forecasting. If I have the time series data, I know that for last 6 years, this has been the sales. What will the sales for next year? But this has been the production for last 6 years. I'll create a forecast for next 3 years or 3 quarters, right? Or I have to predict that, okay, do I need to put a new plant, new warehouse, right? So prediction can be up for, let's say right now the COVID happened. So due to this, what will be the kind of decrease in demand, decrease in production, right? So that is something on the predictive part. Predictive is basically estimating or kind of forecasting what will happen. Then prescriptive. Prescriptive is basically if I have many choices, right? If I have 3 or 4 choices, which choice should I take, right? Like a doctor prescribes some drugs or something for your like health, right? For betterment of your health. Same thing here. Prescriptive means what prescription should I give to the business so that it will improve. So it can be of different ways. Let's say I have this same Ola example we'll take. Ola is getting into electric scooters. Right now they'll see a lot of demand. Now they have to plan that, okay, where exactly I 4 warehouses I should put. So I have plant, I'll put 2 manufacturing plant and 4 warehouses. So in India there are 100 locations, potential locations. All the government, all the state governments are giving me discount, giving me tax benefits. So all these information I have. Right now, what I have to decide, out of those 100 locations across 28 or 29 states, which 4 locations I should choose. So that is the prescription, that is the prescribing, that is the final analysis. After my analysis, that is something I'm suggesting to potential solution to my business, right? So that is the prescription or prescriptive analytics, right? So any doubt on this type of analytics? Again, we'll focus on the supply chain part whenever we discuss this. So here prescriptive, like I said, 2 areas we are going to focus on. One is on the network optimization, which exactly I gave the example. If I have 100 locations, Out of that, if I have choose to 4 locations, how to decide on that, right? Or it can be on the transportation optimization. If I have 3 cities or 5 cities, I have 10 vehicles, how to optimize the route, right? So that is the prescriptive part. Predictive mostly onto the forecasting, right? If I have the data for last 5 years or 10 years, how to forecast the production or how to forecast the demand for next year. Then diagnostics can be of different types. It can be of inventory diagnostics, it can be of logistics diagnostics, depending upon it can be of a production maintenance diagnostics. So depending upon the outsourcing part, I have, let's say, 100 suppliers. Which supplier is giving me the problem for last 3 years? So I have last 3 years of purchase data. So that can be a diagnostics. So I look into out of 100 suppliers who are not performing good, who are always delaying the supply of raw material. Then I'll try to find out those 3 suppliers and remove them. I'll find some alternate suppliers. So that will be my diagnostics. Then in descriptive, we'll be looking into the visualization part, creation of dashboards, creation of having an overall visualization of supply chain. Any questions on this? Okay, so few areas, like I said, these are the areas what we are going to discuss. Anyhow, I'm not going to discuss because in the next slides, each of them are kind of detailedly mentioned. So let's say demand analytics, right? So what do you mean by demand analytics? In your once I get the details, let's say ITC or HUL or these kind of fashion outlets, right? Urban fashions and all those things. Depending upon what sales are happening this year or the last 3 to 5 years, which has happened, they have to forecast production, right, for next 3 quarters or at least for next 2 quarters, right? So what kind of data will be collecting, right? If there is a deviation, we forecasted something, so but when actual sales are happening, there is a difference. How much deviations are happening at each SKU level, right? So that can be analyzed. Then forecast integration with promotional events and holidays, right? And that is something which you might have gone through the marketing analytics part, because once I, let's say, Amazon or Flipkart, they are doing certain promotions, they know that increase in demand will be by 5% or 10% based on the past year's data, right? Accordingly, they will increase the inventory of those products. So what kind of impact this analytics will do? Forecast accuracy. The idea is to increase the forecast accuracy. See, forecast won't be ever 100% perfect, right? No matter what kind of model you are going to use, no matter how much good you are in collection of data, forecast cannot be 100% accurate. So there will be always certain error, right? But the idea is to, can I minimize that error to industry standard level? If I'm able to minimize the mean absolute deviation to 10 or 15% or 20%, that is a great work, right? In store availability, right? So that is something which is intangible. A customer is visiting your store. Let's say a customer came to your let's say Royal Enfield shop. He wants a particular vehicle, it is not available. He might go and buy a Jaguar motorcycle, right? Or some other motorcycle, if he's not a kind of a big fan of Royal Enfield. So that is a actual loss your company is making. How to avoid that? If you are able to forecast which vehicle of which color, I think in some class I had given you that assignment of Asian Paints, right? 20 years or 30 years back, they invested a lot in technology. They put a supercomputer of 8 crores worth. And what is the advantage? Right now, they exactly know that which city, which village, which location will have a demand of which color of Asian paints, which product, which color, which how much quantity, each day wise. See the detail of analysis they're getting into. I'll share that article. Maybe I don't know which class I had shared that. So the amount of deep dive they're getting into each day, every 6 hours or every hour, 8 hours, the vehicles will come, and so if you go to a store in Asian Paints dealer or distributor, they do not keep any forecast, or they do not store any Excel files. Directly from the plant, the vehicle will come and deliver those paints of different quantities, different colors, and that already they are forecasted based on the previous year's data, previous months, and previous week's sales data, right? And ideally, we have to improve the forecast accuracy, improve in-store availability, so that we can reduce the lost sales, right? So that is something which we learn in demand analytics. Second one, finished inventory optimization. So this part might have been covered in production and operation management when you talk about the safety levels, right? Safety stock levels, right? How much safety stock you should take, you should keep, right? So how you'll optimize in your finished inventory, how will you optimize in your work in progress inventory? Because see, space is limited. Even the plant looks big, you do not have space, so you have, like, you are spending money to keep those inventory. Ideal scenario will be like who is mentioning, direct to customer. You customer orders and you manufacture and send to customer. You did not have to store that material, because see, inventory cost is always a waste. If I'm putting inventory, I have to have a space, I have to have insurance, I have to have electricity, power. These are the losses. But obviously, it cannot be, at least at this point of time, for certain industries. We are not at that position that it will be always D2C. So if we have to keep the inventory, how to reduce the inventory cost, right? Inventory cost and customer service level. So we have to reduce inventory cost and increase the customer service level, right? In the last case, so customer wants, so that won't be any, like customer need, let's say a dealer or distributor has ordered 30 vehicles, we are only able to send 20 vehicles. Or right now, last year the things were happening, right? When suddenly the increase in this COVID cases happened, and everybody just buying these sanitizers, soaps, and all those things. There is across India, there is a shortage, right? Can we forecast? Obviously, that was a unique scenario. Nobody anticipated COVID-like situation. But normally also, right? If you see, there will be certain product, whenever you go to store, it won't be available, right? And how to like kind of improve that? How to improve the customer service? And any questions up to this point? So what do you mean by this TL and LTL? So what is TL?
Truckload.
LTL?
Less than truck.
Less than truckload. So basically the idea is that, like I was mentioning, idea is to, if a vehicle is moving out of your warehouses, it should be fully loaded, full truckload, FTL. If it is less than that, you are missing, you are paying the, see, if whether it is quarter load, half load, or 75%, 80% load, you are going to pay the full money to the transporter, right? So the idea is to, whenever you are sending any vehicles, to optimize those vehicle space. Less number of vehicles, fully loaded. Then replacement planning analysis, right? This basically, again, same thing, but we are looking into the retailer, right? What exactly they should put on the stores, where they should put those products, right? Mostly it will fall under the retail management or the sales analytics part, right? Not necessarily the supply chain, but because we are looking into all the stakeholders, right? We'll discuss some part of it, right? What kind of SKUs should keep. Sometimes SKU rationalization happens, because if I'm increasing number of SKUs, managing that number of unit of product is difficult. How to rationalize that? Then this part, network optimization is network Imagine a network of plants, warehouses, retailers, distributors, right? How to optimize that, right? So that is the meaning of network optimizations, right? So how many warehouses, how many factories, how many like kind of retailers or distributors, right? How to manage that, how to optimize that? Because see, each unit, each facility have a fixed cost of operation, variable cost of operations. So it is not that okay, if I have a funding, I should put lot many plants or lot many warehouses, because those are going to cost me a lot. But if I reduce also, I'll not able to meet the demand of customers. Think about right now the same example. Right now, for the Ola, they have to decide that what should be their factory capacity, how many factories they should put, how many warehouses they should put across India. How will they decide? First, they have to decide number, then they have to decide the location. Which location exactly they have to put those factories and those warehouses. So that is something which is known as network optimization. So there are two ways to do it. Network optimization, either you can do it through mathematics, doing integer optimization, or through simulations. We are going to do the simulation part, right? Then transportation analytics. So transportation analytics basically route optimization, right? So if I have this plant, I have a plant in Chennai, Gurgaon, Pune, and I have 25 or 30 warehouses across India. How many trucks and trailers will be required, and how to optimize the routes? The trailer should go to which location first, then which location. If I just to give a simplified example, think about the milk run example. If I have a small vehicle, Tata Ace, it can carry 200 liters or 500 liters of milk. So which location, which processing plant it should cover? I have let's say 30 customers across Bhubaneswar or across Bhubaneswar and Cuttack. 30 basically shops. So which path it should take, right? Can I optimize that? Depending upon, because each day, think about a simpler example. There are these shops or vendors, right? So they will be calling or they'll be putting a WhatsApp. Okay, tomorrow I need 50 milk packets. The other person will say, I need 100 milk packets. Somebody will say 70 milk packets, right? Like that, the total order is consolidated. Total order is around, let's say, 10,000 or 12,000 or 20,000 these half liter milk packets. Now I have to decide, I have this 20 vehicles or 30 vehicles, how to utilize or how to optimize those vehicles so that they'll be delivering those milk packets on time to those 30 or 35 vendors. So that part is transportation optimization, right? So we have to remember how much freight cost. If it is our own vehicles, basically oil, whatever the petrol or diesel, or if it is a CNG, then how much like driver cost, how much maintenance cost, then equipment utilization. So that is where the full truckload and less than truckload. The idea is to, if I'm using that vehicle, it should be fully loaded. Then contract compliance, right? So that is something, if I have a kind of outsource that, let's say I do not own those vehicles, that logistics part has been outsourced to some other agency. So each day they will have a contract complaint. That means each day they will take, let's say, so there is a contract that they will charge for each day delivery 3,000 rupees or 10,000 rupees. So that is something I have to optimize, because if I'm paying 10,000 rupees, the maximum delivery using those vehicles, I should be able to do that, right? Then the scheduling part, right? At what exactly, what point, and that is something, if you join this kind of petroleum companies, that is the biggest, because these trucks, trailers in the refinery gate, there will be 100 or not 100, 500 or 600 trailers or trucks in the refinery gates. Which trucks and trailers will be filled first? So that is something which is very critical, because it is not, if you are the last truck, you might have reached morning 8 a.m., but by the time your time of filling the truck or the tanker will come by night 8 p.m. So how to schedule that? So that is something which we'll discuss on the transportation analytics. Then the procurement analytics, right? So procurement analytics, like I said, it is a sourcing part, right? You have to look into the vendor, which vendor. Let's say if it is a company like Reliance, company like Amazon, they are collecting reviews of different vendors, and many vendors are selling their product in the for the same product they're selling in the Amazon platform, right? So they will be getting those ratings for vendor quality, how much it costs them. Because see, Amazon will be trying to maximize. Obviously, customer is the first one. Their focus is always on the customer. So customers should be happy. They should get the maximum money out of vendor, right? Whatever the commission they are taking, right? And obviously the vendor should be stable. It should not be that he delivered those items for 6 months or 1 year, then he logged out of Amazon. He's no longer selling, because they're looking for long-term association, right? So how much the total landed cost is, basically including all taxes, freight cost, everything included, right? How much it costs to send a product or a material from my location to the customer's locations, right? Security and quality of the supply chain, right? All these things need to be analyzed for a, so that is something called as a strategic sourcing, right? Most of the companies are moving towards strategic sourcing, long-term association with your vendors or suppliers, rather than always every year putting a tender and selecting a vendor, right? So that is something we'll discuss in the beginning itself. What is a vendor scorecard, how to create a supplier scorecard, right? Then there is something called risk and opportunity analysis. This pandemic happened, right? There are sectors, there are industries which got an opportunity. Think about healthcare industry. Think about those PPE manufacturers. So for FMCG companies, certain areas they have opportunity. Soaps, sanitizers, they have an increase in demand. Other part that might be slightly decreased, right? How do you, like, kind of, let's say restaurant, hotels, they cannot anticipate a situation like this. Now because this has happened, can I carry out a risk analysis? Because last 2 years I have the data. I know that, okay, whenever there is a relaxation of this COVID guidelines, what is the increase in demand, and whenever this COVID guidelines comes or the lockdowns comes, what is the decrease in demand? Can I create a model for that? Both risk wise and opportunity wise also, because for some industry it will be risk, for some industry it is opportunity analysis, right? How fast will the supply chain recover from the external shocks? Can I predict that? Which is the most difficult part, right? Because in this case particularly we do not have much data. COVID has happened only for last 2 years. With only this much data, can we predict something? How do I plan for these external shocks and protect against them, right? So this is something can only be done in simulations, right? If I do not have the data, I'll create data, right? So that is where the simulations helps us. It will create different scenarios, thousands of scenarios, and will choose one scenario for you. Whenever you do not have data, I'll create dummy data and create those simulations, right? How can you protect margins when demand falls, particularly for certain industries when demand has fallen down, right? How to, like, kind of keep your margins high. If a major supplier fails, right? So how can you, like, let's say for Amazon, if they look into product SKU wise, if they find that, okay, mobile phones biggest selling segment is the OnePlus or the Redmi, right? Let's say there is a challenge next year, they say that, okay, we are not going to sell through you. Now how will you plan for that, right? So those are something known as sensitivity analysis, right? Both risk wise and opportunity wise, you are creating scenarios and you are doing those kind of different scenario planning. If this happens, then what if? If this happens, what if this happens, right? So overall, the idea will be to optimize these areas: procurement, production control, MRP, then sales forecast, customer service, We will not look into the at a production design level, right? We will not get that time, or we will not have that kind of bandwidth. In one way, there will be supplier relationship management, where I talked about the strategic sourcing. In another way, it will be customer relationship management, because if I'm not able to meet the customer service level, right, customers will move away. Attritions of customers will be high, right? So that is my focus area. I'll start with customers. And similarly, also I have to maintain a supplier relationship also. If I'm not able to, through my supply chain, let's say I'm not able to increase the profitability of supplier, because they are also companies. Their main aim is to make a profit out of it. If they are not making profit, they will move away to other competitors. Then the optimizing all these processes, starting with transportation, logistics, warehouse distribution or inventory management, manufacturing, assembly line flow, workforce management, production planning, then outbound logistics, right? Transportation logistics and customer outshipping, right? So this is something, these are the few areas we have to keep in mind, overall areas, and we'll work on that, right? And any questions up to this point? I have already discussed so much theory. So at this part already have discussed. So next class we are going to discuss on sourcing analytics, right? Then production or make analytics. Then we'll talk about the, actually we'll get into the deliver or transportation analytics. Then on the fifth session or sixth session, we'll come back and discuss on the store analytics, right? Store or sale analytics. So when we talk about store, basically we're looking into our retail stores, right? Think about Reliance Retail or your Big Bazaar or your automobile stores, right? So these are the few areas of analytics we're going to discuss. Then we'll go back and discuss about the planning part, right? Visualization part, how to create a dashboard, right? Supply chain dashboard, and then how to diagnose that. Yes, Asri.
Sir, my question is like where the cost optimization will come under the supply chain?
Cost optimization for what?
Like for all the cost we are incurring for the during the supply chain, we might be thinking about the reduction or optimizing the cost. So will it be coming under the supply chain or it will be coming under the finance only?
Cost of, see, it is not a single cost, right? So when you discuss about procurement analytics, the idea will be to reduce the sourcing cost, either the component cost or the delivery cost.
Yes, sir.
Similarly, when you talk about production make analytics, we have to talk about the production cost, right? Production. So if you talk about the like kind of the finance part of it, what kind of, let's say, loan or what kind of debt or equity, what kind of supply chain financing, no, that we are not going to discuss because
No,
that is
I'm asking like as you mentioned the
yeah.
logistic
So
part,
yeah, logistics part, they'll like kind of
procurement.
component part, procurement part, that is something which will cover. But there is something called supply chain financing, right? So that is something we won't be covering. So that will be on the finance part.
Okay, okay, sir.
So session 2, next class, procurement, then production, then transportation, then sale or the demand analytics, right? Once we cover that, uh, please create your groups by next class so that we'll discuss. So next class in the beginning, I'll give you the instructions for group presentation 1. So that will happen on 6 or 7. The main idea is take any industry, right? Let's say FMCG, somebody of some group can take FMCG, some of you can take manufacturing, particular manufacturing, let's say automotive, right? Or somebody can take healthcare, and try to see that what kind of supply chain application has happened, right? On the analytics side, right? Then innovations, opportunities, what kind of challenges they are facing, right? Most of the healthcare industry when this COVID vaccine happened, one of the biggest challenges too, because that vaccine need to be in a certain temperature. How to transport to villages, how to transport to different areas. India is a vast country, right? So that will be a big problem to discuss. If some of you take a kind of a healthcare, then you can discuss how do they overcome it, what kind of innovations they kind of created for it. So same thing, like I'll give you a list of industries, list of sectors. You can choose any one of them, or you can take any new sector also which you want to study, and at least 8 to 10 slides prepare on the which industry specific to supply chain analytics, and that will be on session 6 and 7, right? Then only we'll start discussing on that simulation part. Basically, we'll first discuss on the dashboarding visualization, then only we'll move to simulation. Anyway, I'll share the session plan, go through it. If there are any questions on the session plan or any topic you need to add, we can discuss in the next class.
Sir, I missed attendance.
What happened?
So 2340. So I missed my attendance.
Okay. If there are no questions, I'll stop here.
So,
Yeah.
sir, as you mentioned, those who are getting placed and called by the companies. So, how we are going to manage about this class project and
See,
target
ideally,
data?
if right now you have already got a joining date, let's say by next week or
Yes,
within
sir.
2 weeks, right? Then do not be part of any groups, right? You send me the mail, I'll send you the alternate assignment. But in between, let's say after 1 month or 1.5 months, some joining dates come, right? Right now, you keep participating on the whatever class assignment group projects. Let's say 10 marks or 15 marks is over by next 1 month, right? So I'll give you alternate assignment for 40 marks or 45 marks, so that the load is also less on you. Right now, what will happen if you're going and you are joining by next week? So I have to give you alternate assignment for 60 marks, right? So if
Okay.
some of you have already joining date, let's say within next week, so do not be part of any group because that won't help you. But if it is in the late, let's say next month or in between, then keep participating, keep being part of a group. And then whenever you go, I'll give you alternate assignment.
Yes, sir. Sir, mine is from 10th of Jan. So,
Okay.
will be now.
Yeah. So 10th of Jan means I think only 2 weeks. So ideally you should not be a part of group
Okay.
because I think only 2 classes will be there. So you just send me a mail with the company details and all those things. So
Yeah.
right now I'm not going to give you any assignment. By January 15th, I'll send it to all. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.